Hello boys, girls, and people from other worlds, my name is Star-Punz. In today's episode, I will be replaced by a new host due to my recent backlash. I thank you all for the time we have had together, but thankfully, the team is hoping that pulling me out with this being my final episode will make our ratings raise just as high as it ever will be in the end. While plummeting with our new host, because everyone all of a sudden watched our show for 9 years and wishes for the old Star-Punz back. And as we watch people online complain about this, saying that this is woke DEI Biden sponsorship, this will be hard. It will be a hard transition, but it won't be as hard as the hole-in-one as I will be making while on vacation. Thank you. Hello boys, girls, and worlds, my name is Star-Punz. And totally not the same guy who ripped off his human skin so that no one would notice. Reboots, recastings, big events, any of those ringing a bell, virtually nothing has changed in the comics industry, and I'm going to rip the adhesive strip right off. We are not sponsored by the Band-Aid, we do not associate with any Band-Aid products, and we will never associate in any other way. Comic books are not dying. They are failing. On purpose. But failing to fail. Now I want you to interpret what that means, as I, YouTuber, inform you, viewer, thinking you're, viewer, too stupid to understand me, YouTuber, as I, YouTuber, inform you, viewer, the retrospect of comic book failures from then compared to now. So Wikipedia is my YouTuber bitch. Let's go into the most famous of these examples to interpret where these publications can stand, most notably, the death of Superman. I even own one of them. Don't worry, scalpers, they're not as expensive as you think they are. Superman, at the time of his high, had become an American icon that symbolizes the idea of heroism. The only fictional being that could have caused this common decision would revolve Samson, really. We're getting ahead of the history lesson. See, not that far ago, 1992, DC Comics editorial began in their influence of orchestrating their most influential icons facing challenges of humanity that we could have not predicted from gods. Yes, DC is a universe shared with gods trying to become men, and the consequences of doing so. And which in English means, Jerry Ordway jokingly suggested killing off Superman to editorial as a way of cracking something to the comics industry on how people always dying off. But nobody was amused. They took it very seriously, as the proposition of passing away a phenomenon as huge as an icon as Superman resonated with readers much more than anyone could anticipate. It was an evaluation as to how much this media had become intertwined with American pop culture as a whole. In English, that means dollar signs came out of their eyes. Once investors came to this realization, comic shops across the country ordered millions upon millions of copies, resulting in the shipping of almost 3 million copies. And they still sold out, as it brought in an audience that the comic industry was able to capture with everyone. This beloved cape was to be held on a mantle resonated with pop culture history. He was a champion of the oppressed. His entire background revolved around the coming of an American immigrants, while losing everything that was their home due to conflicts out of their own control, forced to speak in tongues that they do not know. But in the promise of opportunity, Superman has always been there to protect that opportunity of all. That is why he wears a symbol of hope. That is why readers, once they saw his cape wave with blood, felt distraught. Mind you, at the time, this was the death of Superman. There was no promise of him resurrecting, no final pages of his eyes waking up at the end of the panel. Just a man being held by his love as a city he protected falls in rubble alongside him. A world without Superman. His blood projected $30 million, with 6 million copies across the nation selling on the first day. For publication always boiled down to ratings. Same reason I'm a furry right now. Fan bases engage with anything they can relate to. Something characterized with suffering and upbringing and loss can humanize what is otherwise outerworldly, almost ridiculous in some contexts as you watch circus acts for the sake of human lives on stage. If we believe in the strongman being the common ancestor to the superhero, then every circus act such as a pit of fire, juggling swords, consumption of swords, lifting an entire ton, You were watching a man commit acts in the face of death, tolerating the consequences, because that's what heroes do. So as we progress with these acts, we grow tired of watching the strong man lift a ton. The lion does not entertain anyone as he is whipped into holding 5 more balls on his nose for your entertainment. That is the death of the circus. You need a man to do more and more and more until all has been done. Naturally, such as the fables we reviewed earlier, more epics followed. This resulted in a rupture between the two entities known as DC and Marvel, garnering a fascination with deconstructing their protagonists by breaking them down, physically and mentally. The Dark Knight Returns, Civil War, Secret Invasion. Even now, as we follow our new counterparts to our prominent heroes, Ultimate Spider-Man and Absolute Batman, breaking previous set records. So why is there such a negative connotation regarding the current state of comic books? Hereafter, comics face an undeniable notion in the ratings that these stories, even despite deconstructing their titular hero onto their knees, cultivate a resonance with an audience. It captures the essence of what they have been seeking. Fame. See, the thing about these huge events that change the scale of the Marvel and DC universes is that if you intend on curating an interconnected saga each time that revolves around the end of the multiverse, death of superheroes left right, calibrating a reboot of an entire multiverse of readers who enjoy, again, and again, it becomes a little tiring. Yeah, somehow saying Spider-Man just died in the comics doesn't hold literally any weight whatsoever. So what if the Hulk was killed by Hawkeye? He'll come out later. Yeah, with the pinnacle of the stories, as I discussed before, that became iconic, are just that, iconic. Icons are very, very hard to replicate. You cannot make a general audience surprised once a character dies, breaks reality, fight crime again. Superheroes as a media have extended the limits of their physical force, which garners a fascinating dilemma such as the circus act. People won't keep throwing peanuts at the same tired elephant. Hell, they kind of feel bad for it at this point. The industry will explore all of these iconic pieces of fiction that will be adapted for years to come, sure, but are stuck in their own vacuum. As each fascinating tale piles up on the history of these characters, you kind of become numb. That is not to say that there is not a market for these characters anymore, rather an exploitation of these characters are needed. And it's not like we can find resellings for a cheap price to even enjoy these old stories, so what is new? What is modern enough that general audiences will react as the same as before? Well, if we can't explore the limits of their power, what about their influence? Which we comb ourselves into the era we are in now with the comics industry, which I would like to discuss as the legacy era. Comics are beginning to shift into younger audiences. What is the general norm of this time? In my racist comic books video, link up below, we explored why and how these comics were, well, racist. But each time, it was in the general pursuit of engaging with an audience that deemed this as a cultural norm. We don't have comics now of Lois committing blackface, or Batman hanging a stereotypical interpretation of a Chinese man with his bat jets, because it's not acceptable at all. I want to make this clear. I'm not saying it should ever be. I'm just stating at the time they were kind of fucking weird. But compared to now, we have further embraced the diverseness of people around us. Many forms of media began showing groups that were not meant to be displayed, at least to our perception, in indifference to who is who. So editorial on comics ask, how do we appeal to modern audiences? We change our cast into something they can see as themselves. We change the stories into something people can relate to. We change the social norms of these universes to better fit what we deem as good. This extensive dive into the hero phenomenon of what worked and what hasn't is important to show that editorials are not just scummy, bald-headed, blubber-brained, nitwit, witless wonders. They're also human. They know what trends attract. They know what possesses someone to make a video evaluating the circumstances in which pieces of garbage is produced. Because it garners attention. And as humans, hatred collaborates us into a state of patriotism, resulting in the mentality that we are in the right, that we must speak of this hatred from wherever, whenever, however, to denounce the attention craving from this piece of media by producing attention. Articles of woke Spider-Man, farting Harley Quinn, racist Miles Morales store, Spider-Man losing MJ whilst she has kids. Headline after headline after headline does not garner the idea that they are failing at producing what appeals to the audience of dedicated readers. They are appealing to all readers, somehow, resulting in this hatred collaborating a new fan base, suppose the opposite, a mob, in which they want comics to go back to the old ways before the woke nonsense, before Captain America became a black man, before Miss Marvel adapting into a Muslim girl. Jane Foster held the title of Thor unless you actually divulge yourself into reading them. So regardless of what side you are on, whether you enjoy these adaptations or not, you're always a customer at the end. Also, this is not me subtly putting in my own political beliefs. I do not intend on doing so. Every usage of an idea is just putting into the perspective of each customer, whether or not you enjoy the new wave of characters or not, regardless of where they stand. So at a time, yes, this did work. This was an effort to bring in new readers, and it really did resonate with us. Miss Marvel was at the top charts for a while once she came out, and a lot of readers stuck with these characters. This is a new era in which we have never seen before, where we get to explore characters in a universe that doesn't know what to do with them. And that's what we're seeing now with the fallout of many characters. They don't know what to do. The only headlines they can make is make them die, make them do something obnoxious, make them do something weird. Hell, protesting against climate change or weathers, it just kind of rubs you off the wrong way. I'm not one of those guys who are like, hey, I'm not one of those guys who are saying everything is some sort of big conspiracy to influence us, but I'm just saying it never feels like it's intentionally done to give a good message or to make our characters go through suffrage the same as we do. It just feels like they're trying to appeal to audiences regardless of where you stand. Whether you hate these things or not, you're going to read it. You're a customer. So while they slap a flag there and put some protests here, they do so, as a matter of fact, knowing willingly that a lot of people are just going to hate and fearmonger what these publish, and that attracts more attention, more dedication. So in turn, whenever you see an article talking about comics in general, new reboot, a comic event, and there's some sort of belief in that, they're trying to change something, they're trying to make us feel something, I'm sorry to tell you, but you already kind of did their job. Well, that's my opinion. Thank you all for watching.